it's the next level.
Oh, sorry, there's a deranged cuckoo in there.
Your ratchet wheel's shot and the click spring's not far behind. Hello, you're Lewis, I presume. How was your trip?
This old hag is my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Florence Zimmerman.
I'm relieved to see you didn't inherit your uncle's freakishly oversized head.
Huh, says the woman who literally looks like a Q-tip.
Oh, look, the giant head is angry.
My God, did that withered purple skeleton just speak? She thinks she's smarter than me because she's got more college degrees.
No, I think I'm smarter than you because I'm smarter than you.
Welcome to the next chapter of Still Afraid of the Dark. I am one of your hosts, Rob, from the Caffeine Crew cast of Pods and DC Primetime, and as always, joining me on this adventure...
Ben Beck, that's me.
It is you. And you're also on 1001 podcast, too. Oh, and obviously, because it's your network for let's be honest. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, Next Level Podcast Network is, we got, DC Primetime. I'm with you on Caffeine Crew every once in a while. I do Spotlight, which is the celebrity interview podcast. So, yeah, my voice is heard quite a bit on the network.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is my third podcast now on the network, and it's kind of crazy. It's going to be nice when it's back down to 2.
I know.
But then you and I are going to have to be like, okay, so what else?
What are we going to do next?
So... we got to figure that one out.
We got to do something.
Maybe a gaming podcast is necessary. So
that could work.
So, all right. But before we introduce our next tale, we have 2 people returning for another episode. So welcome back, Damon and Liz.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, steal my opening.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My love, I apologize.
Well, like I said previously, you guys both appeared on the Tale of Sleepy Hollow. And now we're doing a new one, so we call this one The Tale of Jack. And the reason we're calling it that is because we're talking about 2 Jack Black family-friendly Halloween films. And what are those films?
Goosebumps from 2015, and the other?
The House with a Clock in Its Walls from 2018. So for today, we have our new drink, which is called the Mrs. Zimmerman. It is a very different type of cocktail. So again, on this one, no ginger beer. Just
but Red Bull instead.
Yes. So in this one, we actually have to make this one. You'll be able to see the video in just a couple days. But if you want to know real quick what we're drinking as we're having this discussion, so this is going to be per cup. It's about 1 shot of a lemon vodka of your choice, 1 shot of just light rum. In addition to that, I found that just a little bit of a splash of a simple syrup. You can even make your own simple syrup, usually just a quick mixture of water and sugar that you just boil down to. Or you can also buy it. But also, in addition to that, just cranberry juice, not cocktail, but pure cranberry juice. And then in addition to it, blueberry Red Bull. And you should get a nice, beautiful purple tone to it. It's nice and sweet. And as you guys put it, it kind of tastes like Capri Sun. So,
I was going to say,
alcoholic Capri Sun.
Indeed. Carbonated alcoholic
what I would
Capri
call
Sun.
it, yes.
But it's a really perfect purple hue that matches well with the tones of the films that we're going to be discussing today. But a big difference from some of the other drinks we have made so far. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to enjoying this cocktail as we go through and talk about these movies. So, Ben, which one do you want to start with?
I figure, you know what? Why don't we just go in order of release, and we can talk about Goosebumps first, since it was the first of the 2 movies.
Yeah. Well, before we kick in, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting because I think for a lot of people, Jack Black kind of got his big start for a lot of us in geek culture because of things like Tenacious D. And then things happened where we realized how amazing he is in family-friendly movies, starting with The School of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of changed the trajectory of his career a little bit.
Well, I kind of put it very similar to Eddie Murphy. And in that way, he was somebody who did movies like Beverly Hills Cop. He did Eddie Murphy Raw, Delirious, stand-up specials like that. And while Jack was never a stand-up comedian, he was an amazing, and still is, an amazing musician with Tenacious D, which is definitely not family-friendly music. No. But, when you look at Eddie Murphy's career trajectory, he did all these movies, and things changed when he had a family, of his own. He went off and he started doing The Nutty Professor, 1,000 Words, Haunted Mansion, things like that. He shifted into all these family-friendly films. And Jack's kind of taken the same route. I don't know if it's necessarily for the same reasons or if it's just the roles he was offered. But, we saw him, like you said, School of Rock, House with a Clock in Its Walls, and Goosebumps, which we're going to be talking about. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. Jumanji, what's the name of the sequel is...
Something.
It's something.
Next
yeah,
level. I
I
can't
Something
remember.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something.
The
Something.
next level.
Yeah,
That's
the
actually what it is.
Yeah,
That's
I was
right,
gonna say
yeah.
that sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's taken this turn from Tenacious D and Orange County to movies that are more family friendly, that bring in bigger audiences in the theaters.
Well, I want to make sure we get something out of the way. So this actually isn't the tale of Jack. This is just a tribute. So
Oh God, I see what you did there.
you're welcome.
I love that song, by the way. That's actually like a karaoke go-to for me when I actually sing karaoke.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you take us into Goosebumps?
So Goosebumps, as we mentioned, 2015. It's safe to say it's a film series that's based off a book series by R.L. Stine. There are I can't remember. I looked into it a little bit last night. How many books there are?
I want to say it's in the upwards of 60.
Yeah, that's the number. I think like
That sounds
62,
about right.
62, I think
63.
There
sounds
is
right.
a lot.
Yeah.
And
And
there's-
that's just the first run of it. Eventually,
Well-
it was like Tales to Give You Goosebumps was like another offset of
Then
the
Fear,
series.
Fear Street was another big one, which
Yeah.
I know has been indeed optioned by Sony Pictures as another series. I think they're doing Fear Street as a trilogy.
Oh,
really?
I didn't
Yeah,
know
so
that.
that's
Fascinating.
going to be one of the next things that they're going to be
Excellent.
planning on
Okay.
doing. So
But I mean, our first chapter of the podcast, our pilot of the podcast, was All Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And this is very similar to that, in that this is basically a collection of R.L. Stine Goosebumps stories all combined into one amalgamation of a story. They found a way to combine all of these stories and use Jack as R.L. Stine as a centralized character.
which was brilliant. I loved
it's
the
so
idea.
much
Yes, it's
fun.
very well applied.
It's very, very goofy of a concept, but one of my favorite things, though, too, and I want to bring up just in case I forget, is R.L. Stein's actual cameo.
He is a
Right.
cameo in
Yes,
the movie, yes.
exactly.
And I love that he's another
Mr.
teacher
Black?
at the school, Mr. Black,
Mr. Black.
Mr.
Yep.
Black.
which is fantastic.
Who's he? Oh, that's the drama teacher.
And I love that R.L. Stine goes by Black, who's a drama teacher, but while Jack Black goes by Stein, who's a literary teacher,
Yeah.
which is great.
Which is kind of fantastic.
Yep.
So
And it's so quick, but it's just when if you know who R.L. Stine is and you recognize him, it's such a
you know
wonderful
what?
cameo.
It reminds me of this beautiful cameo in the original Scream from Wes Craven, which is you have Henry Winkler as the principal, and he looks outside and he's like, he hears a noise like, "Oh, it's just you, Fred," and it's Wes Craven dressed up as Freddy Krueger.
Oh, that's
with
fantastic,
the striped
right.
sweater with the hat mopping up the hallway, and I'm like, "That's
right.
amazing."
I'd
Yeah.
forgotten that.
So, but yeah, no, I think for this one, what's kind of interesting is, like I said, we've been kind of discussing a wide gamut of family-friendly stuff that skates the line a little bit. The two that we're talking here are going to be very, very, as you mentioned, very family-friendly. But I think with Goosebumps, what was really interesting is they managed to take as much iconic imagery, even if they didn't go into some of the classic stories. You saw a lot of them, though, even like in quick shots in the film. And one of my other favorite parts, though, of this film is also actually, oddly enough, the end credits, because they're actually live versions, essentially, that they made, or animated versions of some of the covers from the original books, which was really, really kind of a nice little awesome touch. But it was something that they did that was kind of unique. Now, how do you want to kind of start the conversation on this? Because it's a little bit different than some of the other stuff where we've talked about, like, different types of legends, the way that the book series have kind of begun. But here we're kind of looking at a twisted variation of these stories coming to life in an odd way, unlike Scary Stories to Tell in the
Well,
Dark.
I think I want to actually turn it over to Damon and Liz
Okay.
because I know we rewatched this movie before recording this podcast.
Right.
I say rewatch,
And this
because
was your guys' first watch,
We
right?
had seen
It
this
was
before,
our first
but this was your
watch, yeah.
first watch of the film. So I kind of want to turn it over to you guys to see what your initial thoughts were. As what did you expect when you knew you had to go into, because you did have to watch this movie to prepare for this recording.
Correct.
What were you anticipating seeing compared to what you actually saw after you finished watching the movie?
That's a good question, yeah.
Well, I grew up reading Goosebumps. That was like, I love reading scary stories. The scary stories to Tell in the Dark were the ones I started out on. And then Goosebumps I kind of jumped into. And I kind of expected to see references or things to all of the books, which I think might have been a bit impossible considering there's so many. And I realized that the ones that I remembered the most of were like nowhere to be found, like Say Cheese and Die.
Yeah.
And the one where like the dad turns into a plant being, and like a whole bunch of other ones that like I kept thinking of. So it was kind of an interesting return to childhood and seeing some of the stories I did remember, and then kind of a furious Googling of, I don't remember of this at all. Like the giant praying mantis, I could not
I
remember.
love the fact that they even make a joke about that and be like, when did I write this?
Exactly.
And
When
it's
did
like,
I read this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
now
right.
I remember.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
I can see that when you do a volume of writing and things like that, you write so many things, so many different plots, so many different directions and storylines. And like, when was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The way that they treated that, it makes me wonder if that was maybe one of his most despised Goosebumps stories.
It
Be
could have
the way
been,
that
yeah.
they treat it.
Or
Because, like,
forgotten.
Or
yeah,
forgotten,
or just
yeah.
purely forgotten. This has kind of slipped under the radar. I'm kind of curious to look that up now when we finish this up.
Perhaps
and
like
see
a
if that's the case.
mediocre one that kind of just slid past, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "That's okay, that's all right."
Yeah. So how about you, Damon?
Well, it's fascinating because I missed the Goosebumps train, unfortunately.
I'm with
when
you. I
was-
never read any of the
never
books.
which is I enjoyed it as Liz and I watched this, so I can enjoy the contrast of like her going, well, oh that one, and that one, like going through all the elaborations. This was all brand new to me. I enjoyed the subtlety of how it was all approached. That the plot mechanism was inductive versus deductive. That they did this like how does they're trying to like get to the source problem or how it all happened, and it's not even until later on in the book and R.L. Stein's completely like, this is a thing that happens when I write. It's just a thing, and he's lived with it for years, and I loved how that played out and addressed itself.
Well, it was kind of interesting. The loneliness of being a writer was really a
Indeed.
big through line of this too, which was kind of interesting. And how you see this version of Stein dealing with that is by creating another creation, which was also kind of a horror in and of itself of what he did.
It is, yeah.
He created something that could never really truly be. And it's kind of weird when we get to the end of the film, and we'll get to that near the end of the discussions on how that kind of tweaked to become a happy ending, but kind of, you think about it, kind of a sad, not happy ending whatsoever.
It's still kind of left a nuance. The happy ending was externalized from R.L. Stein in that instance. It was passed along to the character lead, and so, but he himself is still very much in the same universe he was just in.
Yeah.
It's just more of a controlled acknowledgement of it.
Well,
So-
as they wonderfully put it, and he's like, every story has three parts: the beginning, the middle, and the
And the
twist.
twist.
And the twist. The twist.
I feel like it's very Mary Shelley of him to have
Yeah.
written these characters, these things, these creations that then turn on him. How very Frankenstein
Yeah.
of them to take. And it's, going back to like the original Gothic novel and Mary Shelley and kind of that science fiction, the way it was birthed, which I like considering that it's kind of a campy kids movie, but, still has that highbrow literature
It
No,
kinda
it
thematic
does.
yes,
to
it
it.
really does.
It really, really does, and I think they really achieve a lot of that when you're watching this. Is it's not just seeing these creatures kind of come out of a page, and like, yeah, you have some really over the top, goofy, silly things that are happening, and like you should for a kids film. But I mean, at the same time, though, like as the adults I know that have seen this, all thoroughly walked away with like that was a really fun Halloween story.
Very
like,
much.
and it's in that one of those ways where like you try to think of like growing up and you're like, oh, the Garfield Halloween like special or a Scooby-Doo like something or other for like
Great
Halloween
Pumpkin
time.
or stuff.
Great
Yeah.
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin, indeed.
But it feels like this was kind of like a new classic for a modern era that is going to last a long time, and it's rare to see them anymore because like I loved the one idea that they really steered clear of is technology is not really prevalent anywhere in this film.
No.
Like
No.
it makes it feel like any of this could happen at any point in time. Even like when you see our main character like pick up an old video camera, and it is a video camera from like a mid-90s timeline. Almost kind of looks more simplistic in nature. So it feels like it could have popped up from anywhere.
You look at when it comes to technology, you look at the only time technology really comes into play, and it's when the one character is trying to take a selfie with R.L. Stein. And what happens to that technology? It gets thrown out the window.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And even when they say, "Hey, no one has cell phone coverage," like it's removing the technology from it, so it's kind of like cool, awesome. Like it's off the board. They're keeping it as tightly grounded without making it feel like it's a product of just now,
Right.
and it can something that can live a little bit more in the past.
It gives it the opportunity to maintain a timeless mechanic that way, so it's not tied to a time frame or a situation.
Yeah, which I thoroughly loved. Now, Liz, you mentioned there was some pieces to this because you read Goosebumps. I'm really curious for the ones that you did recognize. What was that like seeing some of those things come to life? Because I mean, we get a big montage of monsters later on where you even see like skeletons wearing aprons and stuff like that.
That is true, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is, of course, Slappy, because the first book,
Night of the Living Dummy. Yeah.
yeah, it's Woody, not Slappy. Slappy comes afterwards.
I think it's the Return of the Living Dummy.
Right. So for me, I was kind of surprised by the name of the dummy because I was like, wait, hold up. Then I had to go and look it up because incessant curiosity. But I feel like it was really interesting, and as like a character that I could feel very involved with, Champ felt like kind of the audience in the movie because he was so excited and kind of like a fanboy of R.L. Stine. So all of us 90 kids had like a chance to be represented as somebody who was like super excited to meet their childhood author friend kind of thing. So that was really nice. And then of course all of the standard horrifying monsters, and then the end having the big monster be the Blob was kind of fun.
The Blob who ate everyone.
The Blob who ate everyone. Yeah.
I was really surprised that the first time I watched that when Slappy opens up the book, he's like, "I've been saving this one." I'm like, "Oh my god, they're gonna do Monster Blood finally! I've been waiting for this from season 9." And it never comes, and I'm like, "Huh." That's interesting. And I'm like, the one of the Goosebumps series that they made 4 books of, like even more than like the Living
Was it
Dummy.
4? I thought it was 5.
Oh yeah, I think it was 5 actually. Yeah, like it just never ended. Like there was different versions of Monster Blood, if memory serves correctly. But like it was kind of funny. I'm like, huh, that's the one thing I think everybody expected and didn't get. Which
Wasn't it initially what our drink was going to be for this episode?
It was
Monster Blood?
Originally,
Monster Blood.
originally the drink I was going to make for this episode was a drink called the Irish Trash Can that I was going to make a change to, which is another drink involving Red Bull that involves much more alcohol. And I'm like, you know what? It's not uniquely mine, so I need to do something different. So we'll get into the reasons on why when we talk about the next flick.
Well, this one works.
Yeah, this one works
Yeah.
incredibly well. So
I want to kind of dive into a little bit the whole Jack Black of the thing. I mean, because we do see a lot of, there are 2 elements of this movie to me. There's obviously the whole nostalgia of seeing the Goosebumps elements come to life.
Right.
But the tale of R.L. Stine being incorporated into it, because this could have very easily have been a movie where R.L. Stine's books came to life, but without R.L. Stine.
Exactly.
You
They
didn't
could have
have to
been
have R.L.
separated.
Stine.
Right.
It still would have been a movie. It still would have been as successful and probably as good of a movie if this was just somebody who had the collected works of R.L. Stine. But to bring R.L. Stine into it, I thought was a great addition to everything. There's a part, and even after watching it this last time, I realized 2 different things. One, you mentioned the Blob at the end of the movie, and this was... I've seen this movie maybe 3 or 4 times. This is probably my 3rd or 4th time rewatching it when prepping for this. There's the whole aspect of R.L. Stine facing his own fears by the end of this, too. It's more than just these monsters and getting them back in the books. There's a character development for Stine himself that develops throughout this entire film. And facing the Blob is one of the things that, really comes to fruition at the end, is him facing his own fears. I love the fact that Slappy was voiced by
Jack Black. Yeah.
Because that, in its own way, while I'm sure fun for Jack to do, also adds to the fact that, this is a creation from his own mind, so why wouldn't it be his own voice that's being heard as he's facing Slappy? But at the same time, there's just so many elements to it that I love the whole character development of Jack being R.L. Stine. And that was one of, while it was great seeing, maybe it's because I never read all the Goosebumps books that I wasn't familiar with all of them until I watched this film, that maybe that's why I related more to the whole Jack Black R.L. Stine of it all than I did the monsters. But I don't know.
It's one of the advantages of watching both of the movies. You can see really all the nuances that Jack Black put into R.L. Stine. And one of the things that came up when we were watching it was even Liz's comment was, what accent is Jack Black doing exactly in this? Do we know where R.L. Stine is from? Is he from Rhode Island, or do we have any idea?
I mean,
Well, the movie takes place in Delaware, but I don't
Delaware,
know.
that's right.
Yeah.
place in Delaware. So I honestly, we can look that up really quick. Thanks to the power of the internet.
Yes,
but
but
it's interesting because it is such a weird, nuanced version of a voice, and you're like, it's not even an accident. It's just a weird cadence that exists with him.
it does. Yeah.
And but it's fun. It's so different because I love the way that we're even introduced to him. It's Mr. Shivers,
Exactly.
which is a great pseudonym for him.
He's from Ohio, by the way.
Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, I
R.L.
can
Stein
see
is
that.
from Ohio.
That makes sense. And I enjoyed going off of it really sunk in. We had the cameo at the end of the movie where you saw R.L. Stein. You actually could hear him talking, and how close Jack Black had done a nuance of R.L. Stein's voice and cadence.
Yeah.
And that was what was impressive, and enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, there's a moment in the movie too, going into the whole Jack Black of everything in which he talks about it's when they're trying to reveal that R.L. Stein is R.L. Stein. They have that whole inclination that he is the author of these books and he's pretending not to be. And they do the little nod to Stephen King. And
Which is really funny because one of the things that apparently was the only couple things that were ever cut from the film was R.L. Stein asked them to specifically take away. There was a couple digs at Stephen King, and he said, "I'm not okay with that," because apparently one of the big things that's going on, where you have the character Zach kind of saying, "Well, R.L. Stein's kind of such and such, like a bit of a hack," and
Right.
he's just trying to kind of essentially be Stephen King. Well, there's an infamous thing that happened was. I don't know if it was a critic or a fan basically made a comment to Stein and said, "You're essentially a training bra for Stephen King," and he actually even met Stephen King later on and said, "Did you ever hear this statement?" And apparently they had a good laugh about it. But
Oh my
apparently
God.
they became really good friends over the years after.
well,
after
I love
some of that
I
stuff.
love the fact that he refers to him as Steve. He doesn't
Yeah.
even call him Steve.
Steve,
He
yeah,
calls
it's
him
always Steve.
King.
It's Steve King.
And-
Yeah.
But it made me and I didn't do it, but I wanted to go back and see if I could find interviews with R.L. Stein on YouTube because I
There's
don't
a couple other, yeah.
I don't know if it's something they wrote specifically for the movie or if this was something that's actually true. Is that R.L. Stein goes into the whole discussion as to why he created these elements. Like he was a kid who was picked on and he created these creatures because in his imagination he wanted them to destroy the people that were against him. And I always wanted to see, I don't think there's any truth to it. I think he was just a great horror writer and he decided to write these stories. But I wanted to see if maybe there was an interview out there to see if he ever addressed this, to see if there really was any truth to this. Like this is why he created these characters.
I wonder I wrote a lot when I was in high school as a part of my, social nuancing and trying to connect with people and all that. And one of the things I dealt with is social interactions and things like that. So on that level, as a writer who wrote frequently in high school and into later into my life, I understand that perspective. And it's how you address. It's your punching bag. You're addressing your emotions. You're addressing your social angst on paper instead of in person. So you can get it through your head. So you can process them. So I can see that. So maybe there's like a kernel of truth in that statement. And I enjoy the aspect of how like the creatures were written and tied down due to the typewriter. Is it have to have the typewriter to do these things, and that on an arcane level is like a key of creation. When he got removed from society, he ended up creating a situation where he was able to access more of his natural self and was able to draw magic through and then create his own universes, and he trapped them on the paper using that typewriter. So having that magic focus, that focused mind, and he just drilled into it and made it happen in this tiny world and then sealed the book. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed the levels and how he used his social construct, his situation, to pull this all together and became successful because of it. But in the same token, as you said, Ben, this also puts him in a situation where he's still he struggles, and it leads later to character growth where he addresses his fears because of this.
Yeah.
So,
Liz, what would you say is probably out of this entire film one of your favorite sequences?
That's hard for me to answer. Well, I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, it has to be one of the the closest to the end sequence when they're all in the school and everything is converging upon them.
The chaos is
The
ascending.
chaos, of course, and
Yeah.
all of the creatures you can see in the full breadth of everybody who's there, all the monsters who are there. I really enjoyed, and then the one-on-one interaction between Slappy and Jack Black, which is interesting, or R.L. Stein.
Yeah, I think honestly the fact that he's trying to write his way out of the problem on a set of The Shining.
Yes.
And then
I know.
There's an extra nod slid in there.
And my brain I love looking at that moment, and I'm like, what high school or
Does
junior
The
high
Shining-
would they say, let's do The Shining as a school play? Because then you're like,
I thought about that too.
no one will ever do this. I know schools that are afraid to do spam a lot because of certain
because of the
certain
content.
pieces of
Right.
context.
Certainly.
I know schools who have almost shut their musical program down because they want to do Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm like,
Indeed.
and who's doing The Shining? Like,
Yes.
This is
amazing.
ridiculous. I actually want to pose another question to Liz too, and both of you, because I
Absolutely.
know you read the books.
A
Some
little
of them.
bit. A handful of them, yes.
And I know you've read a majority of them. Or?
I read a lot.
You read a
Like,
lot of them.
A lot of them.
There's the whole twist, which you mentioned. There's the beginning, the middle, and the twist. And when he says that, it's like, okay, we haven't gotten a twist yet. There's a twist coming, which it's kind of like a little bit of a prediction for the end of the movie. And the twist is that, which we've kind of already found out at this point in the film, is that Hannah, his daughter, was in essence the ghost next door, which is one of the books that he wrote.
yes.
As somebody who's never read any of the books, this was a complete mystery to me because I was not familiar with this character. But as somebody who's read the books, was this something that you saw coming?
A little bit. 'Cause
Okay.
the character's name in the book is also Hannah.
Okay.
They don't really hide it super aggressively.
Okay. See, I never read that book, so for me, like when they did that, I'm like, oh, what a twist, you know?
Right. No, her name is also Hannah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
she
Very
kind of
cool.
just stares out the window a whole lot. So her introduction is kind of the same introduction that we get to the character in the book. So I wouldn't say that it was exactly shocking.
But it was
Okay.
well pieced together in the context and the
Sure,
framing
yeah.
of the
I
film.
mean,
Very organic.
it definitely couldn't have gone that way. Like, it could have been that this was like a real life and blood person. So,
Which she becomes by the end.
right.
Yeah.
But when,
Is she? That's
yeah,
the question.
that is the question.
Well, because it's
She's-
actually, he burns the book.
He burns
at
the
end.
connection point, the foci that allows her to exist, and when he does that, she can't return to the book. She's actually in the material plane.
Right, but is she
so-
still just a ghost in the material
Is she
plane?
a That's a ghost?
good
That's a big
question.
question. Because
Does
that's
she
still
age?
because-
Or-
yeah, right.
From what I've read online, the intention is that he wrote another book to bring her in so that, because she says at one point in the movie, you can only celebrate so many 16th birthdays.
Right.
So from what I read online, apparently, is that the intention of that scene was that he wrote another book. She is now a regular, aging, normal person.
Because if he
She's
writes
a
her in that
real-life
way
person.
and then burns the book, yeah, she'd absolutely be normal at that point,
Yes.
an actual person.
But then at the same time, though, too, if you want to take it in a twisted, creepy way, you're like, nope, no, she's just 17, and she's going to have a lot of 17.
Exactly. Sorry, only a year, darling.
But again, with the mechanics of how the film works, the monster is the thing that comes out of the book. And the reason she came out was because she's a ghost. So
Right.
how is it that she's been written as a person and
Right.
is able to come out of the story
And
pages?
even though there's like sequels to other these books that exist in this universe and world, and I know we're getting into weird semantics on this stuff,
We
but
are.
still, but I think that's what's kind of fun about this is like all you see Slappy burn the books of all these monsters. Just all of a sudden, like you have a giant praying mantis. The book has been burned. It's still just a giant praying mantis. Nothing changes that.
Well, it depends on your perspective of how the book is written, how it's applied on a magical level. It's just in general. If the focus of the book is the monster, and it's not meant to be an actual monster book, but a story about a lovely young girl who grows and ages naturally. And
she's
that's
no
also-
longer a monster.
She's no longer a monster, but
Yeah.
she's the focus of the book.
Well, here's a question.
So-
say Zach and Hannah get married, have a beautiful marriage, and they're on and they get have a nice service in Hawaii.
Exactly.
And in the middle of the evening with a nice full moon. Does she still glow? I think
no,
she
because
still
she's
glows.
no longer a ghost.
She's no longer a ghost.
She only
I
did
think
that
she
because
is.
she was
I think
a
she
ghost.
still glows.
I do too.
That would have been a great nod.
We're
towards the end of
gonna draw. Actually, we have a nice crease in the tablecloth that goes right down the middle. So Liz and I are definitely on one side of this argument.
No, I
Ben
think
and- Ben and Damon are on the
I
other.
think when he wrote the second book to bring her back in, she was no longer a
She
ghost.
was actually just a real girl.
She's
She
a real
She
girl.
wouldn't have to be a ghost. She
well,
could be
then
an
why
actual
didn't
person.
the actual real people from the rest of his stories come out? Why was it just the monsters?
Because they weren't the focus of the book. The monster.
Yeah, they
was
are. They're
focus.
the main characters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
So
argument.
the argument
The people
is that
are?
yeah, the
Okay.
people.
Like the
we see
the heroes and heroines of everything that
if
help move all those things
If
forward.
he wrote
Yeah.
the book, if comes down to intent, if he intent to wrote the book as the monster being the intent of the book, writing it so he brings the monsters to life.
Maybe each.
Well-
Here, I'll take a small twist on this.
Okay.
So maybe what it is what is coming off of the page is his fears, and maybe each one of these is a fear.
Right.
The fear of being alone is Hannah, so maybe that's why that's the only thing that comes out of it.
So he. Oh, that's
But I
good.
also think it could be the title of the book. as well as what becomes the focus that releases off the page.
That's a good solid point.
Because you look at, when Slappy comes out of the book, the title of the book is Slappy's Revenge. When the car comes out, the title of the car is the book. The car is the title of the book.
Right.
The Abominable Snowman is the title of the book. So I think maybe that's what's released from the book rather than the actual characters.
If he wrote a title,
Well,
of a
then
book
it would
saying,
be Fear Street for the giant praying mantis. The praying mantis is not.
But that's one of the
listed.
reasons why we never see the title of the book when the praying mantis comes out. Is because this way they don't have to address that.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's just a cheat.
It's
Yeah.
just a cheat,
It's a
exactly.
MacGuffin.
Okay.
So
It's a
I mean,
writing ploy.
So if he writes a new book with Hannah as a real girl and calls it the
girl
real
that lived.
the girl that lived,
The girl that lived.
or the girl that became real,
Yeah.
now she's a
the
real
girl that became real. That's a good one. Yeah.
We're still drawing a line down the middle.
The line has not moved.
Totally a ghost.
There was a brief moment; it may have wavered, but it stayed still and did not shift.
All right.
Zach has got a lot of therapy planned for his future. Falling in love with a ghost, things go horribly wrong.
Daddy, why is mommy still 17?
There's an entire series of books.
Good night, everybody.
Oh God!
That does make it creepy.
There is an entire series of books written by a female author called Meg Cabot about a main character who falls in love with a ghost, and it doesn't really go well for them. So
No.
I would assume that's.
Maybe we're being
Not the
wistful
best.
that it's a happy ending. That it's this.
I would like to think
Hey,
so.
it is not a happy ending because it is the revenge of the Invisible Boy.
That's
is
true.
Where we leave our story,
And there's the twist.
which I
What
do
a
kind
twist.
of. I do kind of love the fact that that's that final moment of
Final
of
close.
R.L. Stein walking down the hallway, seeing the typewriter start clicking away, and you're like, that's kind of wonderfully brilliant.
Yeah.
It is. That's perfect. It was a great close.
So I gotta say, the one thing I was a little bummed about, no Welcome to Horrorland. That was one of my favorites. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, we kind of get quote-unquote Horrorland because
Sort
of the
of.
pseudo-amusement park in the middle of the woods.
Atmospherically.
Atmospherically. But I will say, though, too, no one is ever going to survive a Ferris wheel, like, rolling off of a track like that.
Am
mean,
I the
that
only
was-
one that wants to see a real ride like that?
yes.
Probably, yeah.
Yes,
Ferris,
you are.
the Ferris wheel leaves the
that
actual
it
like.
disengages and you roll through a forest and probably die a horrible death.
I mean, if it's on a track and it's safe, sure, why not?
Sir, I'm concerned about your excitement
I know,
levels.
I
It sounds concerning. Your adrenaline levels are way too high.
so
It's the purple drink.
It is.
how about, real quick, your last takeaways in your rating for the films? Because we're already about 30 minutes in and we have another film to still hit. Damon, what is your final takeaways in your rating for this film?
I'd call it a treat.
You're going to call it a treat?
I do. I'm to play off of what you said earlier. I think it's a really good modern piece that we're running into the era right now where ideas are getting kind of limited. I don't think we're not completely out, but I enjoy the fact that it does its best to sever the technology arc, which does pin it to a time frame, and then allows it to become more timeless in that regard. This could happen in any situation in which a story is created, and I hope for the rest of mankind we're always creating stories. So it's a great new modern movie for Halloween for a family setting, and that's fantastic. I would like to see fresh blood like this. This is good. I have heard about Goosebumps for years. It's always been interesting. I've never gotten back to it because I missed the arc when I was growing up. But I really love the movie a lot. It was really fun.
Fantastic. Liz.
So I'm going to be one of those really annoying fans and say that this is a trick.
Okay,
Because
that's
I
fine.
missed out on my favorite parts of those books, even if there's 65 of them and you couldn't reasonably fit them in.
Maybe they're in the sequel.
Yeah.
Yes.
There
We're
is-
not talking about the sequel. We're talking about
true.
this one.
Very true.
So my favorite ones aren't in this
Fair.
exact film.
So this is a load of hooey. No good.
Oh
This
my.
exact one is it's crap.
It's crap.
I'm going to give it a treat. Again, this is a movie I've watched a couple times already. I've enjoyed it every time I've watched it. I think Jack Black's portrayal of R.L. Stein is fantastic. I think it fits so well into the vernacular of the film. And even as somebody who never read any of the Goosebumps novels, I was still able to enjoy the movie. So I give it a treat. I think it's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. I'm going to give it a treat just because a werewolf plays with a squeaky dog toy.
Oh, no, that's right. That was a beautiful
I
moment.
mean, like, how can you know? Like, this is an amazing piece of film. So, but no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do think it's going to become kind of another new kind of like modern classic for kids growing up. A great film for Halloween. And for the few books that I did read in the Goosebumps series, I felt like it captured those feelings incredibly well. Just like Liz, though, there are a few ones that I was really kind of bummed that weren't there. Like Monster Blood was one of my favorites. So I was like, kind of like, oh my God, it's coming. And I'm like, really? All right, fine. I guess we're doing this one instead. But like, still, like, but I will say it was really still thoroughly enjoyable, and I love those silly, dumb concepts of books coming to life sometimes. Whether it was going back to like being a kid and watching like things like The Page Master, a movie that no one remembers anymore.
God, the
Excuse me,
Page
I remember
Master.
that.
Macaulay Culkin.
My God, sir, so far back.
Yeah, seriously. But like, even though like our very first episode of the show, we talked about scary stories to tell in the dark, which is essentially the same idea, where it's these stories coming to life in some way, shape, and form. And I do think it's great to have the nod, but I love the idea of having the author as a present character, and it's a real life person, but you have somebody else portraying that, and like kind of playing with that concept and idea. I think was really just the glue that made this continue to move forward. Like Zach is the average everyday kid that is a lead of one of these films. Champ was the quirky best friend. And then you had the love interest of Hannah and stuff like that. So it felt very by the numbers. But the moment that you bring the author of these books that is coming to life as one of the characters, things kind of take a turn for a weird, fun way. And I think that's what makes it unique and special.
It brought it from good to great. Having Arlson actually present, even characterized in the movie.
Yeah. I think that was
I
the
do
best.
want to say I have one of these for both Goosebumps and The House with the Clock on Its Walls, but there are two characters who make appearances in these movies that we enjoy from other projects. Halston Sage is actually in Goosebumps, who we know from The Orville. And she plays the one that that Champ ends up rescuing at the end.
The blonde girl?
Yes. She is, we know her from The Orville, and we loved her from The Orville. So, and I have one of them for The House with the Clock on Its Walls, too.
Awesome. Well, why don't we then shift to our next film, which is The House with the Clock in Its Walls, also starring Jack Black and Kate Blanchett, a person who doesn't age at all.
No.
Oh my God.
And she's still stunning at 50.
So gorgeous.
Yes.
I wanna kick this off by saying two things. I'm gonna do the character the same as I did from Halston Sage.
I have something to add to it when you're complete.
But first off, as you mentioned, Kate Blanchett at what 54 years
No,
old?
50 even.
She's 50 even.
50 even.
I have such a crush on her still to this day. She is amazing in everything she's in, and she's absolutely gorgeous. She's fantastic in this movie. But the character that Halston Sage from Goosebumps is easily recognizable, but there's a character in this movie who's not recognizable at all unless you know her. If you're fans of the movie Clue, the maid from Clue is in this movie.
Colleen
Camp plays the neighbor across the street.
Oh, she does! My God, man, that's why I kept watching it. I've watched House of the Clock on Its Walls a couple of times now, and I kept looking at the neighbor. Why is the neighbor so familiar? This is killing me, man.
Mrs. Hanchett.
Mrs. Henchett.
Yep.
And well played, sir. Thank you for explaining that. That was
Yes.
tickling my brain.
That would probably be where you recognize it
So the
from.
other thing I felt like we needed to add is this, instead of being called The Tale of Jack, we could have this called The Tale of Daddy Issues, because all three of our
seriously?
all of the films we're talking about all are massive daddy issue movies.
Seriously.
Because and that even goes back to like when the last time you guys were on, we were talking about Sleepy Hollow. Like, that's where it was there too. But now again, you have in Goosebumps a kid dealing with the loss of his father, and this one the loss of both of his parents. So ta-da!
Yep, exactly.
So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So, but this is a fun movie. I mean, 2018, it came out. It's one of those movies that I went and saw in theaters. I didn't know what to expect because I'm not familiar with the literature at all. But I knew that I liked Jack Black and Goosebumps. So that is actually, that's why I'm glad we let in with Goosebumps, because that was actually the reason why I went and saw this in theaters, was because I liked what he did with Goosebumps. So I'm like, all right, I'll give this a shot. It looks kind of fun. And I saw it in theaters and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So for you guys, was this your first watch on this film or no?
No, we had actually previously seen it. I was interested in it because Kripke, or Eric Kripke, the creator writer for like the first 5 seasons of Supernatural.
Correct. Yeah. He was the main writer on this episode.
Right. I think
correct?
he was a writer, maybe producer, writer. Something.
Right. But he
Important
did
in
have
some
heavy involvement.
sense.
Right.
Had involvement, and I kind of got like this was one of the reasons that he wanted to do Supernatural was the book, because of that this is based off of, and that there was a few Easter eggs in there for fans of Supernatural.
Oh yeah, did you spot any specific ones? I don't think I caught anything offhand.
Well, there's
but...
the yellow-eyed demon Azazel.
Oh,
So that would be one of them, one of the more obvious obvious ones. The Prince of Hell, Azazel,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who's there as the teacher for the warlock. But I think there's a couple other ones in there that are sort of subtle. I probably should watch back through and kind of really zone in on any other Easter eggs.
Yeah, I definitely have to take a look for them now. Not thinking about that. 'Cause,
Right.
Like the first 5 seasons of Supernatural are just they're wonderful because they
They're
tell such a
beautiful,
great
very well
cohesive
done.
story.
Such a solid character arc. I must say, I kind of
That's where we stop every time we
Yes.
rewatch
That's
because
the
it's
end.
such a great.
Everything after that is fanfic.
Yeah,
It's fan-serviced fanfic. And that's fine. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, I thoroughly agree because it takes so it gives us such a great story, and you can see I love the cohesive story we get here. I mean, I've never read the original book that this is based off of, so
Neither have I.
So
neither.
that was I think this was a full-on new idea for me when seeing the trailer for this film. That was like we need to kind of check this out. It looks fun and twisted in a weird, goofy way, and then finding out as I watched the film, I'm like, oh my god, Kyle MacLachlan's in this movie, and I'm like, Twin Peaks apparently is a part of this now.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is amazing. I love this idea. So I love a lot of what they played with here, but I think that mysticism and idea of magic here is done in such great ways, and I loved that concept of, well, everybody has their own magic in the way that they do it. Like, you can put anything in front of somebody, but, like, that last 1% has to be you. But I love that we get that final moment with the boy in this when he actually gives his own spell, and it's so over the top and so bizarre and so weird.
And there's that moment with
This
Kate
is like,
Blanchett. Wow.
Wow.
He's weird.
Exactly. That was perfect. That was so beautiful.
But I mean, like, Jack Black, though, as being our thorough through line through all of this stuff, gives such a wonderfully interesting performance here, because it's that parental unit that's not really being a parental unit; it's more that being that best friend.
Like the pleasant uncle,
Yeah,
the one,
yeah,
the eccentric one that shows up with a nice beautiful hat and a kimono to pick you up off a Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a beautiful character introduction.
I feel like it's kind of the masculine version of the aunts from Practical Magic.
There you go.
We have the
Exactly.
Uncle Jonathan, sort of ushering him into his family, not so much family heritage as it was in Practical Magic, but kind of what he can be,
Yeah.
which is sort of an interesting
Well, I think
look
one of
at
the other
it.
things that's a really easily overlooked piece about this film is I loved the fact that Jonathan and Florence, obviously Mrs. Zimmerman, they don't have a sexual relationship.
No.
I love the fact that they didn't even try to push that idea at all.
It was great.
And it was just kind of like, no, they're just best friends. And
Yeah.
it's great to be like, yeah, men and women can be best friends with each other without having to have sexual attraction.
can be genuine
And
companions.
I think that was
yeah.
really wonderfully done because it's so rare. Because like when you first see it, I'm like, okay, they're going to get together at the end of the movie, and then when they didn't, I'm like, bravo. I'm like, thank you for like being like, no, we don't have to shoehorn this plot into this.
And I think one of the things that worked the best about that, too, is the dynamic between Jack Black and Kate Blanchett playing those two characters was fantastic.
It was very organic. It's very solid.
The
digs at each other,
the
left
digs
and
at
right.
each other
Very
are
normal.
hysterical.
They're off the cuff. I wouldn't be half surprised if they were ad libbed because they were just on top of
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, they were so quick. They're like, and the wit was so sharp between the two of them.
God.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful to watch.
And I love by the end of the film too, like when there's that moment after they stop the clock and they come back together at the end when Lewis says to them, do you want to be a black sheep with us?
Right.
Like it's a way of them becoming a family without being an actual blood family.
no, Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Black
Yes,
Swan,
Black
and she's
Swan.
like, and she says, "Can I be
Be a
purple?
purple. Can I be a
You
purple
know,
swan?
Can I be a purple swan?" I want to real quick too before we go any further. I want to go back to you mentioning Eric Kripke with Supernatural. The last time we had you guys on, we were talking about Sleepy Hollow, and this just goes to show you the type of way Supernatural has affected my brain. Is when we see the headless horseman in the grave. The first thought that came to my mind is, why are we not just throwing salt in there and burning it?
Salt and burn.
Why are we overdoing this? What's with the mystery decoding?
Exactly.
Just remove the headless
The
horseman? We'll be
Winchesters
fine.
would have had this dealt with already.
My God, this
I
has
don't
been
know.
an episode arc. What are you doing?
It might actually be a moment where you have to say Christo just to make sure it's not a demon, because that tree has something wrong with it.
did.
So, but yeah, I mean, the dynamic with Kate Blanchett and Jack Black worked so well. And you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if there were moments where it was ad-libbed and they were just knocking at each other for fun.
It was so natural and organic, and that they have solid chemistry as companions.
Yeah.
Non-romantic companions.
Yeah.
And that does make a difference. It really made the movie that extra more impressive.
Yeah, it
remove
just felt like
that-
best friends ribbing on each other just because.
Exactly.
It's like it's their way of saying I love you and thank you for everything. And it was cool to see, but it never came off malicious though, too.
an affectionate exchange.
Right, and that's always how it felt, which was really awesome to see.
Well, because you would see them dig at each other, and then the next scene they're smiling, like they're just kind of giving each other these grins, like, okay, that was fun, and that's the way it played off.
Well, speaking to sort of the asexual, aromantic nature of their platonic relationship, I thought it was really interesting that we have Miss Zimmerman dressed in purple the whole season, the whole show, because lavender is the color of lesbians, and in the past it was kind of the way for them to identify themselves to each other. Right around actually 1945 in World War II, a lot of lesbians were a part of the army and were a part of the military kind of thing, because it was a good way for them to get, out there and meet each other.
That's really awesome.
And get kind
I
of
was
thing.
not aware of that.
And
That
it's not-
actually adds a really fun layer.
So I know that she had a husband and a child and that kind of thing, and was a part of. It's very sort of slightly skimmed over, but kind of shown that she was part of the concentration camps. But
Right.
we don't really know why. With the last name of Zimmerman, we can kind of assume a little bit of Jewish heritage there. But I like to think that it was maybe a little bit also because of a bisexual nature there as
Yeah,
well.
it's
just
very,
because-
very possible. Yeah.
It's not uncommon for lesbian women who desire to have families, especially during the time frame,
Right.
that they go and actually
Right.
find an appropriate male companion and have a family with them, and they love them just the same. It's not any different.
Oh, absolutely.
And so,
And I mean, that still exists today.
It does indeed.
It's not uncommon still, based on where you live in the world, what state you're in, county you're in. That's still not unheard of.
it was one of the cultural subtleties that I enjoyed. I mean, they were even acknowledging some of the segregations in the presence of how African Americans and Caucasian Americans were separated in the school and all that, with even the water fountains. I mean, that brief heartbeat of a moment when he's magicking the fountain because the guy's just completely drinking all of it. Was there a second fountain? Am I crazy?
I don't remember, but I did look into it. They were supposed to be in Michigan, and things didn't get desegregated officially until the 70s there. They didn't pay as much attention to it as they did the South in desegregation.
Gotcha.
And so in Detroit especially, things were segregated, whether by governmental means or by just where you lived up until the 70s, 80s.
I like how that was one of the subtle nods they slid in there as a part of the culture of the movie, and it was acknowledged, and it was very much important, and I loved how it was built into it as a character piece of the movie.
And it's something we talked about too with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, because they set that back in 1968 during Nixon's re-election. And you watch all of that and how that plays out. And we talked about that heavily in the pilot, which was really kind of how even modern situations and the way that they impact when you look back a couple centuries back, and we're talking 50 years, and here we're talking even longer, and showing how a lot of those things are prevalent again. And I think it's really interesting that you're starting to see that in film now, where you have a period piece that's reflecting upon problems of the time then that still equally exist now, and they're kind of we're going to smack you upside the face with it, but not in a brutal
Exactly.
nature, where if you look for it, you very much see what's happening behind the curtain a little bit. But it was kind of interesting to see. You're right, though. There's a lot of little subtlety all throughout this that's very much there. I mean, even if you look at our villains of this piece, Izzard, or was it Izard? I can't remember. Isaac? Well, I know it's Isaac.
It's Isaac, yeah.
Isaac Izard.
Isaac Izard. I mean, his idea of kind of all these atrocities from war, he's like, why don't we just not have any of this?
Right. Humanity is the disease in this instance,
Right.
according to his diabolical mind.
Yeah.
So,
But you even think about it, I mean, it very much is exactly where we're at right now in our society. We're like, nope, we are the cause of all the problems that are laid at our feet currently.
Exactly.
And this is that idea of this is the extreme. It's you go back to talking about Avengers,
I was just going to say,
Infinity War,
Izard's the Thanos of this story.
he really is. He's
instead of a
exactly
snap,
that.
it's the tick of a clock.
Yeah.
Right.
It's,
I'm going to reverse time.
Yeah, we're going to undo everything. Which leads us to one of the most unsettling parts of this film.
Yay!
Is it Jack back as a baby?
Yes.
Yeah. As the joke that Mrs. Zimmerman actually makes about the big head, and he's actually a giant head on a baby's body.
Oh, God, it's such an unsettling scene.
It was you're right. It was one of those unnerving parts of the movie. We see all sorts of crazy things happening, like lion topiary, crapping out dead
Pumpkins
leaves and
spitting
pumpkins
out-
spitting out
yeah.
all sorts of things.
And all these things are fun, but you get to that moment, I'm like, kind of out.
I don't know.
I need to check out for a moment.
I'm
or
reaching
two.
for the remote to pause this because I need a minute. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's the only moment of that movie that I'm like, was this necessary?
Did we have to?
Why
do
do we
this?
have to have adult Jack Black's face on a baby? Why is there a goatee
I think-
involved?
yeah.
What's happening here?
Perfectly coiffed hair, the trimmed goatee, everything.
But
on a
even
baby.
still, like though too, like it's like a CG'd version of his face. It's not even
Right.
like just his head, just superimposed. It
No.
is just like we're gonna make a bad CG version that makes it even like you added an uncanny valley on top of it, and you're like,
Right.
Why was this necessary? Stop that.
Right. It's like the same studio that made the second part of Breaking Dawn for Twilight. The weird CGI baby thing happening. Was like, you know what would be a great idea to add to this film? Another one of those.
It makes me think of like what's his name, Kevin Smith. Whenever he talks about John Peters and the giant spider from Superman,
from Superman.
and you
Oh,
see it
man.
appear in all these John Peters films, and you're like, why?
Why must
have
you do
why
this?
have we done this? Why have we done this?
I think kind of getting away from the whole Jack Black creepy baby thing. I think one of the things that we haven't brought up yet is the fact of who directed this movie, and that's Eli Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Roth, who's known for movies like Hostel and Inglourious Bastards. Like,
Oh,
this
that
is
is
a
right.
different.
Well, I mean, he didn't direct *Inglourious Bastards*. He was
Well, he was in Inglourious
He was-
Bastards
he-
too.
he
He's
was-
actually in House with a Clock in its Walls too.
Yes.
He has a cameo appearance.
He is he's in when they're watching the Captain Midnight show. He is in Captain Midnight.
Is he Captain Midnight?
I don't know if he's Captain Midnight or just one of the characters, but like you actually see him dressed in like army regalia in the portrait.
No, he's Comrade Ivan.
Comrade-
in
I was
the
gonna say,
House
I
with a Clock in
was
its Walls.
going to guess if it was
Comrade.
Ivan off the top of my head.
Yeah. So like I said, we do see him make a
Comrade
quick
Ivan.
appearance.
But this is a tonal change for Eli Roth. Like he's still
Oh,
sticking
absolutely.
with the horror aspect, but he's going more family friendly. And in reading a lot of the reviews that I read on the movie online, there are some people that actually really had a problem with that because they expected a movie from Eli Roth to be more gory and more
dark
horror.
and-
Yeah, because when you look at the movies it has given us in the past, like Hostel is a good example. People expected a little bit more of that. But what do you expect from a family, from a young adult book?
He
Like, you
achieved-
can't go that
But
route.
he achieved it though. I mean, like you get to the room with all the automatons, and that's horrifying. I don't care who you are. Like when you see all of them, like still when Lucas walks into that room for the first time, and you're like, no, thank you. Like I would never ever walk into
Second
that room.
time, and he's back. He's back. Sorry, Masters is back, or whatever.
Yeah, oh yeah,
He's coming.
he's coming.
He's coming. Okay, guys.
Yeah, because again, it was unsettling. It was unsettling in all the perfect right ways, and it was great. But like, you still have like you could have a master of horror do these fun, interesting things. Like a
Right.
great example, like Ben, is a director you and I both love is Sam Raimi. Like
Oh,
Sam
God,
Raimi,
yeah.
like
Sam Raimi, yeah.
he has his roots in horror. But like you even look at
Spider-Man.
2.
Yep.
Spider-Man 2 is a great example. There's this beautiful shot that looked like
With
it was
Doc Ock.
with Doc Ock
Yeah.
when he's on the operating table and they're trying to remove the pieces from his back, and it looks like a shot that came out of Evil Dead.
Yes,
2.
it does. Yeah.
And
Very
it's-
much so.
It's beautiful. It's but like you still see Eli Roth's style all over this film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you also have to remember though, he's also the same person that hosted Shark Week. I mean, come on. I mean,
Did
like,
he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I don't watch Shark Week, so I didn't know. I
But I
didn't
mean,
realize
like,
that.
I think it's the fact that, like, you know, we talk about this stuff on Caffeine Curl all the time of, like, you know, fan expectations sometimes are so over the top, and especially when you're a hardcore fan of one person's work. And the moment that they break your expectations, it feels like they're doing you a disservice. And I think it's just kind of like, no, they're allowed to express themselves creatively.
Exactly.
Because if not, we wouldn't have half the things that we have currently. Like, you know, you could have all of these people create something unique and they say, oh, you know what, I'm going to try my hand at this. And then that's what they're ultimately end up being known for. I mean, I think that's what's so much fun about creative minds is
And
there's no limit. There's no,
No, it keeps them from being
possibility. It's
pigeonholed.
impossible.
Yes.
I mean, personally, I like it when we see not just directors, but actors kind of take a chance on other things. I mean, you look at some actors who are known as comedians, and when they do dramatic roles, they shine. Like,
Exactly.
You look at Will Ferrell, who's known as, like, you know, for Anchorman and all those
Then
movies.
Stranger Than Fiction happens.
Stranger
You're
Than
like,
Fiction, and
and
you're
he's
like
solid.
blown away from it.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's another one. You look at like Caddyshack and things like that, but then he does movies like St. Vincent, which are fantastic.
And one of the big
Solid.
ones that everybody's talking about right now too is Joker. I mean, like you have Todd Phillips who wrote The Hangover, you
Yeah.
know, and is now doing a film that everybody's
it's
saying,
winning
Oh
awards
my
at
God,
film
that's right.
festivals.
He did do Hangover, didn't he?
Yeah,
I'd
that was
forgotten
that was the thing he was known for, and everybody says this is going to probably get at least 3 to 4 Oscar nods. But then it brings us right back to Jack Black, and it's a person that was known for being a musician musician and then turned into this family-friendly actor. And I think that's where it steers it completely back to what we were talking about, which is why we were doing Let's Do a Tale of Jack, because this is a person that you could see, if he just said, hey, I'm going to make Halloween movies for families for the rest of my day as an actor, I'm like, please do. I'm thoroughly enjoying them.
Something dawned on me while we're doing this podcast and why this movie resonates.
You don't want to
with
do
me.
it anymore, do you?
No, I'm done.
It's fine because
and,
you get like 5 minutes left.
Okay,
so.
sorry. But to me, I realized it combined two Samhain, Halloween, fall movies together in one. This is Practical Magic and Addams Family as really as one movie. And it's like they're really because we're watching it. We're watching this movie, and I'm like, if I forget it's in 1955.
1955. Yeah.
1955. I forget it's 1955 because we're in the house, and the goggles on his head. That's normal to me. That's steampunk.
Yeah.
We get into the house. I see this glorious house that I would live in a heartbeat. And before I even knew it was
It's
magical.
like, I want to get back because I want to watch the Captain Midnight show. I don't have a TV. And he doesn't question it because, you know what? Not everybody's going to have a TV yet.
Exactly. And
You don't question it like him throwing a fit about it, because if you brought somebody from today's day and age and you lived with your aunt and uncle and said, oh, I really want to watch this tonight on YouTube, and they're like, well, we don't have internet connection, they'd lose their mind.
Yeah.
Oh God, they've blown away. What are you talking about? That's impossible. And they did a great job of breaking the mold, separating from his usual bodywork, and I'm glad he did, because this is a beautiful example of not being pigeonholed. There's opportunities out there, and I love how this movie took the beautiful magic and the family aspect of Practical Magic, and more of the family aspect from Addams Family, and the kookiness and the crazy house and family, and just fused it together with a really nice, beautiful magic background.
Was a similar takeaway to what I had is this is the thing that's closest to the 90s version of the Addams Family that we had.
Exactly.
It had that magic to it, that weirdness, but it was never questioned weirdness. It was
No.
like, this is normal every day.
This is
Yeah,
normalized.
this is what it's supposed to be.
You want cookies
Yeah.
for dinner? We'll have cookies for dinner.
Yeah.
By the way, you should be careful with the pumpkins in the backyard, and be careful where the lion sits. It could be a mess. Things like that. And this is normal.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think with that being said, why don't we just go around and we'll give our rating and our final thoughts on the movie. I want to say real quick too, I absolutely plan on posting this on Twitter and tagging Jack Black. So Jack, if you happen to listen to this, we're big fans and we want you to come on
Massive.
an episode of the podcast.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Oh my God, that'd be phenomenal.
Oh my
Be
God.
amazing. So, but let's go around and we'll start with Damon. Final thoughts and your trick or treat on the movie.
Oh, a solid treat. This movie on so many levels just makes my giddy little heart just thump.
You giddy aunt?
You're the aunt indeed. They're everything about this movie was well polished, well focused, and very beautiful. Onto the cultural circumstances, to as a public level, on a personal level, like the house and then the world around them, and how they were very well balanced and characterized very well, and the plot and everything was done very well. It had a really good prestige. I was excited about it. It was definitely a treat.
Okay. Liz?
Oh, definitely a treat for me as well. The ever-enduring lady crush that I have on Kate Blanchett
Oh my God.
Don't we all?
still continues.
I still, every once in a while, just look up a picture of her from Thor Ragnarok, and I'm like,
A little bit of that, a whole lot of it of Ocean's 8, because
She
Oh,
is
man.
the only reason I even
God.
watched Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8 was just like just constant, just Kate
that
Blanchett
outfit,
beauty,
that
and,
motorcycle. Whew. Anyway, I would also like to have a snake called Snake Spear. And
and your husband almost lost his drink this time, where
that was my turn. Fair play, my love. Fair play.
excellent, yes. So I will definitely rewatch this over
Yeah.
and over and over again.
I'm going to also go ahead and give this a treat as well. Damon, just like you stated originally, this Addams Family is a film that I can't wait for when we actually wrap up our season, because that's one of the ones we're talking about. And I hold that film so near and dear. So you already know the review I'm giving that film, but I haven't felt that way about a new film that has that same idea until watching this. So House with a Clock in Its Walls, I think, is a really just masterpiece in like a great entry to weirdness for youth, like saying, hey, you can really kind of be whatever you want. You don't have to focus on societal norms. But in addition to that, though, I really just, again, want to reiterate how great it is to see a film not force a romantic plotline and show that men and women can just be friends.
It's huge.
And it's not this whole idea of behind it. It's like, well, in actuality, one of these people is really pining for the other or something like that. It's like, no, you can have a platonic asexual relationship with a person, and it's truly somebody that you care about. And I would love to see more of that done the way that it was done here in other films. And I really hope people take that to heart. So good on this.
Yeah, it's an absolute treat for me as well. In addition to everything that you guys are saying, I think just, Owen Vaccaro as Lewis, Jack Black, Cate Blanchett. I think the three of them as leads really shine. There's a beautiful dynamic between all three of them.
And again, Kyle MacLachlan, bring the lead of Twin Peaks into anything. You're like,
I know, right? Yes.
Especially weird. Like, you just bring him into anything weird.
Again,
Like,
it's that David Lynchness kind of creeps into this.
I know,
because of his involvement. It's great. I love it.
yeah, I mean, and to anybody who criticized Eli Roth for going this route when it comes to horror, just
Dude, good on him.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
absolutely.
think this is a wonderful way to kind of I guess not change directions, but to try something different, to still stay in your lane, but kind of just shift slightly to make it more family friendly. I think it was
honestly,
so well done.
I'll put it this way: if you told me that Barry Sonnenfeld directed this film, I would have been like, I absolutely agree with you.
You know what? I wouldn't even put this past being of Zemeckis at some point too, because it even has a little bit of a Zemeckis feel to it.
There's that 80s, 90s, early 90s magic that's all over this when people
Absolutely.
were going. And one of the things too, aside from the one weird sequence, it's so great that both of the films that we talked about here, while there was a lot of CG, it never felt like it got in the way.
No.
Either Goosebumps or this.
I mean, the Jack Black baby thing was the only thing.
That was
Yeah.
about it. But
that was
like,
it.
and we're talking about two films that are littered with it everywhere, and it never felt like it stalled or stopped the story.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to Goosebumps, like just the whole CG of the words coming off the page to create
Like this
these
ooze of
creatures
ink
was
and stuff like
great.
that. It
Liquid,
was
yes, flying into the world. Yes.
And the CG in this film and the House with the Clock in its walls was so well done and so not over the top. It was so subtle. It was really well done. That gave me chuckles. Like even at the point where even after the movie was over and it's leading into the end credits and you see just a bunch of leaves on the chair and Jack Black yelling, "No kitty, bad kitty, use the litter box." Like that gave me a chuckle, like even going into the credits. And it's wonderfully
You have the
done.
chair chasing the hedge line in the credit sequences and such like that too.
So it's so wonderfully done. It's an absolute treat.
the one thing we didn't mention, man, Tarby is the worst kid ever.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Right, and I saw him, and I'm like, he's so familiar, and I couldn't figure out what I had seen him in, but it was something, and I'm like,
can't
he's
remember.
such a little jerk. You're just
He was absolutely the worst.
He
no
was a
lie.
terrible man.
I want to say he actually was in God of War.
He is. He's the voice of Atreus in God of
He's
War.
Atreus in God
Yep.
of War.
Oh,
Okay. And,
well, that ties it all together.
but he was fantastic in God of War because he was a little piece of crap in that too. But like he ended up growing on.
Row
good
rolled,
time.
sir. Row rolled. Yes.
And
was like, okay,
that's
that's
really
like-
the only other thing he's well known that he's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the last thing we need to do is if we have any recommendations for weird, twisted family films like this.
so many. I guess,
I know.
Actually,
This one's tricky. I mean, if you guys don't have one, it's quite okay.
I think I have 3.
Okay, go for it.
Is that weird?
Sure,
All right.
no.
So for the Goosebumps, I think I would have to recommend Never-Ending Story, just because the concept
Good
of
call.
having a
That's
book
that's a really great
come
call.
to life and have a character kind of become embroiled in a book.
And not to mention to the level of how disturbing Never-Ending Story truly gets.
It's real weird.
Yeah.
The entire book is kind of horrifying, actually. Even if it is kind of now a topical reference, but with Stranger Things and Dustin singing. And then I guess for A House with a Clock in Its Walls, I think because of Tarby, my brain goes immediately to It, even though that's definitely not a child's film.
He does seem like he'd be one of the
feels
kids
like
from
one of
it.
God,
the
you are right.
Jerk bullies from It. Like it just kind of has that feeling, and maybe it's because the
I still have
original
yet to
story
see the new
I have
It.
not seen the new.
is
Ed.
from like the 50s, and like they kind of update it to make it more of the 80s. Sort of, kind of goes together.
Okay. I can totally see it.
I'm.
Well, you mentioned you had a third.
Well, we've already mentioned it. Practical Magic
Okay.
being the other one with the family of magical users.
Which,
kind
oddly
of.
enough, is getting a series on HBO Max.
That's
Really?
right.
Is the cast coming back?
I don't
Or is it a
know,
new cast?
but I do know that Practical Magic is going to be coming into the mix, and I believe I don't know if it's a prequel. I think it's a prequel series that's dealing
It
with
makes
the ants.
sense.
Well,
to-
I mean, it is also based on a book.
Yeah.
Which is totally different from the film. Interesting note. But like that whole family of magic users bringing in orphans and like raising them with sort of unconventional rules would be the other thematic elements for those. So
Damon.
yeah.
The one in this, it's for me because this movie has a somewhat hermetic magic sort of approach to it and everything between. The strange one I would recommend. I don't know if anyone's even heard of this. There's actually a series that young adult wizard series that predates Harry Potter, and that's going to be the So You Want to Be a Wizard series, and by Dan Duane, who actually ironically does a lot of Star Trek novels. And who's known as doing Star Trek and I think Spider-Man novels, and then she wrote her own series that is more So You Want to Be a Wizard, where you find a book in a library that is actually calling to you, that is the universe itself coming to you saying, I want you to become a wizard. And you must, have, it has the same aspect of the whole, well, to become a warlock, you have to defeat, an evil spirit. Well, as a part of your trials to become a wizard in the So You Want to Be a Wizard series, you must defeat the darkness. You must go ahead and defend yourself against it. And it's a part of your original ordeal, and it proves that you are on the side of good and of the light. And it goes into some really crazy, it's more sci-fi. It's if Harry Potter was more arcane sort of fantasy style, this is hard sci-fi. Like one of the character goes and terraforms a planet because she can, and then wields and like melts a star. All sorts of insane things. She does great work with it. I highly recommend. So You Want to Be a Wizard series by Dan Duane. She's got like 8 or 9 novels out. It's been out since the 80s.
So you don't just put your hand on a staff and say Shazam?
No. You
Okay.
actually. This is one of the. I'll briefly kernel it. You have to actually form spells, and they have spell chains they wear around them when they go out and do things and all that. They practice on the moon on a regular basis. It's a whole. It's I can't recommend it enough.
So like a young version of the magicians.
Yes.
Got it.
All right. I got a couple recommendations. Obviously, Tale of Jack. We talked a lot about Jack Black. If you're looking for another family friendly Jack Black movie, I highly recommend Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle. It was one that, as a huge Robin Williams fan, I didn't know if I was going to like it because I'm very traditional when it comes to Robin Williams. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like the new Aladdin, is because Will Smith to me just is not. Sorry if he's listening, but he's just not the genie to me.
Not landing in the bottle. Yeah.
Jack Black would have been an amazing genie. I still say it to this day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, God, yeah.
But it's I went into Jumanji. I went into it with the impression that I wasn't going to like it, knowing full well that it's a sequel. They're not rebooting Jumanji like they did Aladdin.
Right.
It's not somebody else playing the part that Robin played. Nobody else is coming in and playing Alan Parrish. And there's one line, I've said this a number of times on Caffeine Crew and a number of other podcasts. There's one line in Jumanji that the moment I heard that line, I'm like, I'm good. And if you've ever seen Jumanji, it's the scene where they're in the tree house.
Right.
And Alan Parrish has got his card, Alan Parrish was here, written on the carved into a board. And whatever Jonas brother that was, Nick Jonas, says, "This is Alan's house.
Yes.
I'm just living in it." And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm good.
That was the beautiful nod.
You just played nod to the original without overstepping it.
That was
I'm
perfect.
good.
That's
and the trailer to Welcome to Jumanji: The Next Level just looks fantastic. It looks just as good. The other recommendation I will say is very reminiscent to what the special effects that we kind of got out of these two movies is. If you haven't seen them yet, check out the Night at the Museum series.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of those series, and I think like when it comes to things coming to life in a magical way, that's another great one to watch. And again, another Robin Williams movie,
Robin
'cause
Williams.
he's in all three of them. So.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt. I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to give the easy one here because I generally believe that it's still well worth your time. If you enjoyed Goosebumps, definitely watch Goosebumps too. It's still a really fun
Haunted
film.
Halloween, yeah.
Yeah, Haunted Halloween. It also came out in 2018. Actually, the reason Jack Black is not a large part of that film is because he was shooting A House with a Clock in its Walls, which came out around the same time. So he does have a nice little cameo near the end of the film. I do believe there is right now rumors of a Fear Street trilogy that's going to kind of pseudo-continue this storyline, if not kind of start something new. But like I said, it was a really thoroughly enjoyable, and I think it's still well worth your time if you enjoyed this. But the obvious other one, though, too, is one that we're going to be talking about in just a couple weeks as we wrap up the series, is definitely always go back to Addams Family. I
still love those movies.
I can't
Yeah.
stress enough how amazing that is.
Priceless.
But I would really say it's well worth your time if you've never seen it, at least even just in preparation to kind of think along with us as we get ready to gear into that in just a couple weeks. But yeah, I thoroughly think this was a wonderful week of movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
For gearing up towards Halloween. But with that, a big special thanks to our good friends at This Way to the Egress for providing the music for our show. You hear them in the beginning and the end of it, so make sure to head over to www.thiswaytotheegress, that's spelled EGRESS.com. You can make sure to check out their merch store, find out what's going on, hear a couple tunes from the band on their website, or support their Patreon, which they've got a lot of fun things for Halloween gearing up, so make sure just to go over there, check out what they have to offer, show your support. But in addition to that, we'll kick around, see if anybody's got anything special going on. If not, we'll just say our goodbyes and let you know when you can hear us next. So starting with Damon, anything special? Yes, no, maybe?
I'm in the process of cooking some 2 different podcast ideas and working with Ben and seeing how that plays out. One's going to be a cultural piece we're looking into about lifestyle choices. And another one's going to be potentially about a comical gaming game show called For One Night Only, where players play a one-off character for a one-off setting. So we'll see how that turns out.
Very cool. Liz.
I'll likely be involved in any one of those projects, as I am married
One
to
and
that
or
person,
both, if likely.
and they will probably happen in my house. So, other than that, not much going on.
Ben.
As always, this podcast, as well as all their podcasts, potentially Damon's future podcast as well, which I'm
Indeed.
sure.
Hopefully so.
Which will be part of the Next Level Podcast Network, thenextlevelnetwork.com, facebook.com/the Next Level Network, and that's about it.
And as for me, you can always find me at the Caffeine Crew Cast of Pods, also part of the Next Level Network, as Ben just put it easily, www.thenextlevelnetwork.com, and you can find, like I said, Caffeine Crew there. We'll be gearing up for our Halloween episode very, very soon, so be prepared for that. I believe we're doing this year all on vampires. We've touched upon it in the past, but there's so much to unpack, so I'm looking forward to that discussion. But yep, like I said, beyond that though, like I said, always check us out. Like I said, we are in the thick of things now at DC Prime with DC Prime Time. Shows are probably either right about being back or
At the point that you're hearing this,
Yes,
we
yeah.
we might be back to
we might
full
be back,
strength,
or it's
to
just
weekly.
a week or two away.
Yeah.
Because again, this is recorded in the future
In
when
advance.
you're hearing this. So, but like I said, we're prepping for Crisis. So.
Oh man, I can't
Right around the corner. But without further ado, we're going to say our goodbyes, but we'll see you again next week for another chapter of Still Afraid of the Dark.
Bye.
Bye.
Adieu.